say, will the sun rise tomorrow? Will there be any time left to borrow?
I'm Bruce Gordon. In early 1971, there was a rabies scare in Vietnam, the largest rabies scare in United States military history. I was personally involved, and my own life was at risk. I had flown F-100 fighter missions with the 6th 12th Tactical Fighter Squadron in Phan Rang, South Vietnam, for several months when I was transferred up to Saigon to the fighter plans shop in accordance with standard Air Force procedures that made sure that people in the fighter plan shop had personal experience with the combat missions and knew the areas that we were telling people to go into. Each month, the officers from the fighter plans shop in Saigon were sent back to their original squadrons to fly combat missions, and this made sure that the fighter plans officers were aware of current battlefield conditions that they were sending men out to fly. When I had first been at Phan Rang, there were no pets allowed on base. Well, I went away, and when I came back for my week of flying, a new commander had allowed pets on base. And our fighter squadron had picked up 2 nice German Shepherd pups. The pups lived with us in the barracks and lived in one of the rooms with one of the pilots and with the flight surgeon. The flight surgeon was a doctor who had had special aviation medicine training. He lived with us and even flew combat missions with us, so he was fully aware of any medical conditions that might affect the pilots who were flying combat. Each day, after flying our combat missions, we would relax in the squadron lounge and we played with those German Shepherd pups. I returned to the fighter plans shop in Saigon and worked for a couple of days, and I got a phone call from one of my friends at the squadron. "When you were here," he asked, "did you play with those pups?" "Why, yes, I did." "Well, did you get your hands in their mouths?" I said, "Well, yeah, how do you play with puppies without getting your hands in their mouth?" "Of course I did." He said, "Well, one of them just died of rabies." My heart sank and I felt cold fear at the pit of my stomach. "You'd better tell me the whole story," I said. He gave me the grim details. "A day after you left, one of the puppies got sick, and the flight surgeon looked at him and said, 'Well, looks like he's got some kind of laryngitis.' So the flight surgeon put a couple of antibiotic pills down the puppy's throat and waited to see if he'd get better. But the puppy didn't get better. He got worse. And then, in the middle of the night, the puppy started to howl and ran up and down the halls of the barracks, and people came out and looked at it, and someone said, 'That looks like rabies.' The flight surgeon put the puppy in a kennel and watched it for a couple of days, and it died. He sent the puppy's head back to Saigon for analysis, and it came back positive for rabies. The base commander immediately ordered that all pets on base were to be shot. There were horrific stories. For instance, one of a puppy that was shot with a shotgun but wasn't killed and ran and jumped into its master's lap, and the air police dragged the puppy off its master's lap into the street and shot it in front of the airmen. Horrible. The rabies scare went out throughout all of Southeast Asia, and I even heard that in Thailand they were shooting the pets. The pilots in our squadron were all getting the 14 rabies shot, one per day, in their stomachs. And they were having bad reactions, and some of them were ending up in the hospital. Wow, I exclaimed. If all of our pilots are getting the rabies shots, and some of them are having such bad reactions that they're ending up in the hospital, then the whole squadron must be grounded. I was right, and I had just blurted out a military secret on an unclassified telephone line. I quickly left the fighter plan shop and went down to our base hospital in Saigon and asked to see the flight surgeon. He sat me down and gave me the bare facts. He said that rabies has a 14-day incubation period. If you start taking the shots during the 14 days, you will survive. On the other hand, if you don't take the shots, once the symptoms of rabies appear, you are doomed to a horrible death. Rabies needs a break in the skin to get into your body, and some sort of a sore or scratch, and usually creates an infection at the point that it went in. Did you have any breaks in your skin? No, I didn't. Did you have any infections on your skin after you got back? No, I didn't. He said, you might not be really exposed to rabies. He said, you can have your choice. He said, I could give you the shots and you'll be down for 14 days or more, possibly in the hospital with reactions. Or, he said, you can reject the shots. You don't have to take the shots. But if you wait and the symptoms appear, you will die. It's your choice. This was truly a life and death decision as I sat there talking to the flight surgeon. But then my spirit of attack got me. I said, Doc, I'll take my chances. I've been taking my chances all my life. I'll take my chances and not have the shots. I went back to my job at the fighter plan shop, and as each day went by, the slightest sore throat would terrify me. But I was glad to be alive. I thought I had passed it all. But then I was called on the carpet. It turned out that when I had blurted out that our entire fighter squadron was grounded because of the rabies shot, I had blurted out a military secret on an unclassified telephone line, giving the enemy information about our war capability. It was a serious breach of security. But I consoled myself with that I had shown the spirit of attack.